Chapter 13. Triple Attack. Ship detected. Bearing 2 o'clock. The shout from a crewman aboard the Brave echoed through the A.E.U.G's comm system. What? Cray's heart raced. A pursuit force or the vanguard of the main fleet? Either way, they were early. Too early. Any data? He barked, his eyes glued to the monitor. Working on it, sir. CG, corrected image coming up now. Beside the crewman's face, a kaleidoscope of red, yellow, and white resolved into the unmistakable silhouette of a ship. It's an Argama class. Cray's blood ran cold. That monster mobile suit unit. They're here to chase us down. Any other ships on their tail? Negative, sir. Looks like a lone wolf. A recon mission, then. Doesn't matter. We can't let them interfere. Not now. Alert Penta. Tell the shuttles to haul ass and launch. Now! Side's face, alight with mischief, filled the monitor. Lieutenant, if they've got monsters, we've got our own too. A grim smile tugged at Cray's lips. Damn right. Good thing you suggested that acclimatization flight. Permission to sortie, sir? Do you even need to ask? Their eyes met, and a moment of perfect understanding passed between them. Detach the towing cable. Cray's order was met with a resounding clunk as the Zeonic-Corps hook was released. The Brave, trailing the cable like a lifeline, pulled away. For a heartbeat, the Zeonic-Corps drifted. Then, its massive rear nozzle roared to life. Aboard Penta, the new Decide scrambled in a frenzy of activity, shouts flying back and forth. Attack force incoming. Shuttles, launch, now. What about the descent window? We can't just rush it. Have them wait in orbit, goddammit. Do I have to spell it out for you? We need to recalculate the propellant consumption. The enemy won't wait for your damn math. The new Decides on Penta burst into frantic activity upon receiving the report of enemy ships. Shouts of alarm and fury echoing through the corridors. Bull Run, A.E.U.G, prepare to depart. Mobile suit teams, to your shuttles. Stand by for combat. In the bustling corridors of the mooring boom, a sea of frantic motion as personnel raced to their stations. Josh offshore huddled in a side passage, hardly daring to breathe. With shaking hands, he ripped off his head bandage and gingerly opened his eyes. Searing light stabbed into his skull, tears streaming down his face. He gritted his teeth, riding out the wave of agony, waiting for his vision to clear. Blurry shapes knew Decide's troops had to be rushed past, oblivious. Squinting, he made out the sign on a nearby door. Security office, bingo. Offshore stumbled inside. If this was a standard unit layout, what he sought would be here. Half-blind, he fumbled until his hands found a red cabinet. Mustering his strength, he slammed his fist into the glass, wincing as it shattered, slicing into his skin. Ignoring the blood, he grabbed the gun nestled inside a rubber bullet gun, the kind used for riot control. Offshore tucked the gun into his jacket, a grim sense of purpose settling over him as he slipped out, making a beeline for the shuttles. Incoming bogey. Pegasus 3's astrogation officer's shout sliced through the bridge, raw panic etched into every word. Captain Heathrow jolted forward in his chair, adrenaline surging. Report! What is it? Where's it coming from? 8 o'clock, 11 high. Single contact, size of a cruiser or bigger. That acceleration. The officer's face drained of color. Captain, it's no ship. A mobile armor? That massive? Heathrow's mind whirled, strategies and countermeasures flashing through his thoughts. Evasive action now. Randomize acceleration. Aboard the Zeonic-Corps, Cray tracked the Pegasus 3's desperate attempt to dodge with a predator's calm. Too late for fancy flying. The mobile armor shuddered, then unfolded like a monstrous beast awakening, the mega cannon yawning wide in its gaping maw. "Lieutenant, the target is on our axis." Side's shout knifed through the cockpit, taut with barely restrained excitement. The mega cannon's heart blazed white-hot, a miniature sun primed to unleash hell. Cray's finger caressed the trigger, a lover's touch, then squeezed with deliberate precision. The A.E.U.G convulsed as twin lances of pure, searing light erupted from its core, twining together into a single, screaming beam that raced toward the ship, hungry for destruction. Beam fired. Collision imminent, the astrogation officer's words morphed into a strangled gasp as the hammer blow of impact shuddered through the ship, throwing crew members like rag dolls. Emergency klaxons shrieked as darkness swallowed the bridge, red backup lights flickering to life, painting the chaos in hellish hues. "Damage report, all decks," Heathrow roared, clawing his way back into the command chair. A massive shadow tore past the bridge's starboard viewport, a glimpse of something terrible and unknowable, moving too fast to comprehend. "It's him." The whisper slipped past Heathrow's lips unbidden as he fastened his seatbelt with shaking hands. Armored shutters slammed down over the bridge windows. "All hands, level 1 combat stations, normal suits on." Transferring command to the combat bridge. Heathrow shifted his chair to the combat bridge, a smaller, secondary bridge atop the main one, an expanded version of the captain's room found on older Argama-class ships, a necessity on the cutting-edge Pegasus 3. Mannings raced through the juddering corridors, a dull ache pulsing in his right leg with every jarring impact against the wall. His fingers closed around a helmet, snatching it from a locker as he sprinted for the mobile suit hanger. Even a training unit beat sitting on his hands. This fight, this moment, was for the kids' future. The old guard's duty was to pass the torch and entrust the next generation with their memories, both triumphs and failures. It fell to the young to carry that weight, to forge ahead and shape the path to come. The past was a guiding light, not a shackle. He refused to be a burden, an anchor dragging them down. Mannings knew his place in this story. "What? The Pegasus 3 is under attack?" "Confirm." Root's stunned disbelief crackled across the comms. The enemy's foreknowledge a bitter pill to swallow. "Damn, our captain sure fell for it. Some elite from officer school, huh?" Crypt spat. "Should we go back? To the ship?" West's concern was understandable. Their mothership was under fire. "Negative. We press on." Chung Young's words cracked like a whip. "Take Penta, and the enemy's got nowhere left to run." "Damn straight." Manning said it's time to end this, once and for all. Conviction hardened Root's tone. The comms fell silent as 2 ships materialized ahead, ominous and waiting. "They knew we were coming, bastards." Damage reports scrolled across Heathrow's screen, each new line a fresh twist of the knife. Starboard engine sheared clean off, output gutted. Habitation block scorched and venting atmosphere. Casualties mounting by the second. The gravity of their plight crashed over him like a frigid wave. So much devastation. From a single volley? "What are we dealing with, Captain?" "The port-side linear catapult is activating on its own." The officer's cry yanked Heathrow back to the present. "Who is it? Nero Squad?" Impossible. They were still in the hangar. Repairs incomplete. But a horrible suspicion crystallized in his gut. The main screen flickered, resolved into a familiar, grim visage. "Mannings, what are you?" "Captain, I'm the only option. Grant me clearance." "Your Nero is a trainer. You can't." "With respect, sir. Yesterday you all but ordered me to launch." "That was." "I didn't. Joke or not, I have to go. If we take another hit like that, we're space dust." Manning's tone brooked no argument. "I'll do what I can." What I must. He snapped a salute, and the screen went dark. Mannings. Wait. It's no use, sir. The catapult controls have switched to mobile suit auto mode. This is Mannings. I'm go for launch. The catapult hurled the Nero into the void with terrifying force. In seconds, the mobile suit dwindled to a speck against the starfield, then winked out. The void swallowed all traces of its passing, the universe settling back into eerie, monochrome calm. The A.E.U.G shuddered as it wrenched itself into a brutal turn, the aftermath of its devastating assault on the Pegasus 3 still echoing through the void. Lieutenant Cray wrestled with the controls, fighting to bring the behemoth to bear for another strike, this time angling to flank the crippled warship from the left. You weren't kidding, Lieutenant. Maneuvering with this beast is like trying to steer a meteor, Side quipped, his voice strained. Cray barked a mirthless laugh. Oh, there are ways to make it dance. But no need for fancy moves here. Fast. Make this one count. Roger that. 1 shot, 1 kill. The mobile armor surged forward, a leviathan on the hunt once more. The ship loomed larger on the monitors with each passing second, the distance melting away, until a new contact blinked into existence, the telltale frame of an incoming bogey flashing red. Enemy mobile suits, incoming, Side called out, his eyes glued to the rotating CG model of the interloper. A hail of anti-air fire erupted from the Pegasus 3, a desperate barrage of tracers and beams. Numbers? Single unit. High mobility type, from the looks of it. The mystery suit danced across the monitors, a deadly ballet of evasive maneuvers as it closed on the A.E.U.G with frightening speed. Definitely no rookie in the cockpit. Look at those moves. A damn shame we have to swat them. In the Nero's cockpit, the universe spun like a demented kaleidoscope. The panoramic monitors, a dizzying whirl of starfields and strobing weapons fire, as Mannings pushed the suit to its limits and beyond. Damn, that thing's built like a church steeple. Moves way too well for its size, Mannings muttered, eyes locked on the monstrous silhouette dominating the center of his HUD. The A.E.U.G filled his screens, the distinctive Xeon emblem emblazoned on its prow, searing itself into his retinas. Xeon? Could it be? Tosh? No, impossible. Disbelief warred with dread in his gut as the unthinkable implications crashed home. Instinct took over. Mannings flicked his beam rifle to rapid fire and squeezed the trigger like a man possessed. The Nero's gun barked, spitting lances of coherent light in a staccato rhythm, stitching glowing scars across the mobile armor's flank as it thundered past. You're not touching the Pegasus 3, you bastard! Mannings roared, pouring his fury and desperation into each shot. The Emerald Hulk shrugged off the barrage like a whale ignoring a hail of harpoons, its course unwavering as it surged towards the wounded ship, an avenging angel of death. Damn it, not even a scratch? The Nero rolled, inverting to give chase, Manning's mind racing. Tosh, if it's really you, please, you have to see reason. But the A.E.U.G was shifting, its titanic frame unfolding like a monstrous flower, a yawning chasm opening at its heart. A white-hot glare kindled deep within, baleful and hungry. Oh hell, not good. Seizing on the momentary drop in speed, the Nero executed a flawless 0G kick turn and slingshotted ahead of the transforming juggernaut, inserted squarely between the open petals of its maw. The glare at the A.E.U.G's core flared brighter, the air shimmering with the promise of annihilation. Persistent little gnat, Side muttered, eyeing the enemy mobile suit, as it danced and jinked around the A.E.U.G's hulking frame, peppering them with pin-prick hits. Lieutenant, want me to swat that fly? Cray shook his head, smoothly jinking the mobile armor to the side to evade another flurry from the Pegasus 3's guns. A lone mobile suit? It's no threat. A mega cannon shot would be wasted on it. Ignore the pest. Eyes on the prize. Looks like it's just the two of them. Form up tight and hit him hard. Roots snarled, his fingers already hovering over the missile launch controls, itching for the fight he knew was coming. The enemy ships loomed ahead, growing larger with each passing second, their approach as inexorable as the tide. Hold up. Flashing. That's a signal. Crip's shout crackled across the comms, sharp with disbelief. The Bull Run, flagship of the A.E.U.G fleet, pulsed with rhythmic bursts of light, a staccato pattern playing across its hull. What the? They're surrendering? Roots stared at the blinking signal in slack-jawed shock, the wind abruptly torn from his sails. He'd always hated the communications classes back in training, the endless drills on flashing light codes and pennant signals. He'd never been confident in his ability to read them on the fly. But even he couldn't mistake the clear message of capitulation. You think they mean it? Wes sounded cautious, uncertain. No way, Tex. This has to be a trick. A trap. They're gonna wait till we get close, then boom. I don't know. Their guns are pointing skyward, missile launchers sealed tight. Wes pointed to the magnified images at the edge of his A.E.U.G doubt creeping into his tone. Either way, we need to check it out. Sigmund and I will take point, push ahead to Penta. A mobile suit vanguard will be more useful there anyway. Chung Young's voice cut through the debate, decisive and firm. Roots bristled, his anger flaring white-hot. Hey, dumbass, did you forget who's in command here? Me! But Chung Young brushed off the outburst with infuriating calm. And as the senior member, it's my call to make. Sigmund, on me. Let's move. Before Roots could muster a retort, the two Z2 pluses peeled away from the formation, blazing past the slowing enemy ships in a flash of thrusters. They rapidly accelerated into the void, streaking towards Penta. Roots could only watch them go as he and the others headed toward the Bull Run and A.E.U.G. Screwed up. Side's tongue clicked in frustration. The Pegasus 3, now fully on alert after their initial strike, had marshaled its defenses with impressive speed. The warship's anti-air fire had become a force to be reckoned with, a deadly lattice of beams and shells. Even the mighty A.E.U.G couldn't shrug off a direct hit from the ship's mega-particle cannons. In the desperate scramble to evade the incoming barrage, the mobile armor's own shot had gone wide, its aim spoiled at the critical moment. Lieutenant, we need to shorten the charge time. Cray nodded, his jaw set. Make it happen. With his commander's blessing, Side rerouted power to the mega cannon, coaxing every last erg from the generators to boost the weapon's cycle rate. The A.E.U.G heeled about, realigning itself for another run on the Pegasus 3, and once again, the Nero surged into their path, interposing itself between hunter and prey with suicidal determination. Oh, for the love of... I've had it with this pest. Side, take out that mobile suit. Wipe it from the sky. Cray snarled, his composure fraying, his patience at its limit. The enemy pilot's stubborn persistence had crossed the line from admirable to insufferable. The A.E.U.G's cannon flared, a searing lance of annihilation stabbing across the void. In the Nero's cockpit, Mannings wrenched the controls with desperate strength, throwing his machine into a frantic, evasive spiral. But even as the suit twisted away, he knew it wouldn't be enough. The beam caught the Nero's right leg in a glancing blow, armor and actuators dissolving in a white-hot instant, the limb vanishing in a spray of molten shrapnel. The mega cannon's shot hurtled past, its course altered just enough to miss the Pegasus 3 by a hair's breadth. It can't be. Stole? In that frozen moment, as the Nero's leg disintegrated on screen, a flood of memories crashed over Cray. The 1-year war, a decade gone but never forgotten. A fateful mistake that had left a comrade in mortal peril. A foolhardy, selfless rescue that had cost a good man his leg. Side's finger twitched over the trigger. "Lieutenant, this shot won't miss. I'll atomize that mobile suit." Side's finger tightened on the trigger, a hair's breadth from unleashing the mobile armor's fury once more. "No. Stand down." Cray's desperate shout echoed through the cockpit, raw anguish and command presence blending into a thunderous bellow. But it was too late. Side's finger depressed the trigger in the same instant Cray's order registered. Blinding light seared through Cray's mind. The Nero, crippled and adrift, vanished into the mega-cannon's searing embrace. Regret stabbed at Manning's chest. Damn it. For him, that fleeting thought was his last. No signal from Manning's unit. Heathrow fought to keep his face impassive at the comms officer's report. The Zeonic-Corps mega-cannon lashed out at the Pegasus 3, melting the starboard catapult into slag. Manning's had said this would end it all. But for whom? Heathrow wondered, the toll of the dead and wounded ringing in his ears. Was this truly the end? Manning's is dead? No, no way. It can't be true. Root's voice cracked, disbelief and horror warring in his eyes as the transmission from the Pegasus 3 echoed through the bridge of the Bull Run. He'd come aboard to confirm the enemy's surrender, only to be greeted by the gut-wrenching news of his mentor's fate. "You stupid bastard, Manning's. We weren't done settling the score yet. How am I supposed to surpass you now, huh? What the hell am I supposed to do?" Root slammed his fists against the bulkhead, every ounce of his strength behind the blow, the metal ringing with the force of his anguish. The Bull Run's crew could only stare in stunned silence, unsure how to react to the raw display of grief and fury. Suddenly, Roots whirled around, his eyes blazing with a manic light. He raised his fists and charged towards Admiral A.E.U.G, a roar of pure rage tearing from his throat. West, realizing what was about to happen, lunged forward and tackled his friend, dragging him to the deck in a tangle of limbs. "Let me go, damn it. I'm gonna kill this stupid admiral. I'll rip him apart with my bare hands." Roots thrashed and struggled, his voice cracking. "No, Ryu. Killing the admiral won't solve anything. They've already surrendered. It's over." "Then who the hell is attacking the ship, huh?" "The new decides, not the admiral. It's not the same." "I don't give a damn." They were enemies, weren't they? Allies of the new decides. And now they just waltz in here and surrender? Like hell I'll accept that. West sighed, shaking his head. "Shin, a little help here?" "Keep Roots under control." As Crypt moved to restrain the struggling Roots, West approached Admiral A.E.U.G, taking up the mantle of negotiator in his friend's stead. The Admiral's intentions seemed genuine, his will to surrender apparently sincere. Under West's watchful eye, small explosions rippled through the gun turrets of the Bull Run and the A.E.U.G, rendering their artillery useless. The missile launchers were similarly disabled, a standard precaution when dealing with surrendering vessels. The Admiral, well versed in such matters, oversaw the process with brisk efficiency. "One of your comrades has fallen, I take it?" The Admiral's question caught West off guard, his tone oddly gentle. "He was our instructor, sir." "I see." Admiral A.E.U.G's gaze drifted to the distant stars beyond the viewport, his eyes haunted by old ghosts. So many good men lost in this war, and the last. My own son among them. He would have made a fine officer had he lived. I was his teacher, you know. His mentor. West said nothing, sensing the Admiral had more to say. In this conflict, I had hoped to foster understanding for those who dissent from the Federation's party line. To do that, sacrifices were necessary. Martyrs to light the way. In a world ruled by the tyranny of the majority, those who dare to disagree face only annihilation. But when someone bleeds and dies for their beliefs, perhaps then, the masses might pause and consider a different perspective. The greater the sacrifice, the more powerful the message. A stark lesson in the perils of blind certainty. Mayor Pinefield of Ayers City understood that, I think. Something in West snapped, a dam bursting under the weight of too much sorrow and too much senseless death. His fist lashed out, connecting with the Admiral's jaw. That's nothing but self-serving nonsense. Your whole argument rests on the assumption that a world of mutual respect and understanding is impossible. It's an insult to our generation, to the future we're trying to build. Who are you to decide what's right and what's wrong? That's for us to determine, not you. Maybe we do need your help, your guidance. But we're not mindless drones, slaves to whatever path you lay out for us. We can think for ourselves, make our own choices. If we just blindly follow the rails you set down, generation after generation, we'll stagnate. We'll cease to be human at all. He jabbed a finger at the Admiral, his voice shaking with barely contained fury. And if your logic holds, why did you surrender? Why come to us, hat in hand, instead of making yourself a martyr for your precious cause? Isn't that what your own argument demands? No, this is nothing but your own twisted agenda, forced down our throats. Your son died because of that same flawed logic because you tried to make his choices for him. Roots and Crypt could only gape at their friend, struck dumb by the force of his tirade. The Admiral opened his mouth, searching for a rebuttal, but no words came. The silence stretched, taut and brittle, until the sharp crackle of the comms shattered the moment. Roots, get your asses over here, now! The bastards just left Penta and their shuttles. Chung Young's voice was a whip-crack of urgency, a call to action they couldn't ignore. Damn it, they were stalling for time. Playing us for fools. Crypt snarled, releasing Roots and gesturing for West to follow. Let's move. We've got a job to finish. Lieutenant, why are we breaking off? We almost had them. Side's voice crackled with confusion and frustration, unable to fathom why Cray had suddenly ordered a retreat, just as victory seemed within their grasp. I killed him. With my own hands, I killed the other me. Why were you there, Mannings? Why? Cray's words were a broken whisper, a fractured litany of regret and self-recrimination as he steered the mobile armor back towards Penta. Lieutenant, can you hear me? Side's insistent query jolted Cray back to the present, his eyes refocusing on the screens before him. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry. He shook his head, trying to clear the ghosts from his thoughts. We've crippled their warship. The fact that they only deployed a single mobile suit means the rest of their operational units are likely heading for Penta. We need to provide support for the landing force. Cray kept the real reason for his decision locked away, buried deep in the shadowed recesses of his heart. A new battle, a fresh surge of adrenaline. It would help him forget, if only for a little while. In the void above Earth, 3 massive shuttles raced away from Penta, each one laden with mobile suits and soldiers bound for the planet below. Tucked away in the cockpit of A.E.U.G, concealed within the cavernous cargo bay of Shuttle 2. Josh offshore held his breath and braced for atmospheric re-entry. He'd stunned the designated pilot with a rubber bullet, taking their place in a desperate gambit to see this through to the end. But what then? What would he do once they made planetfall? Once they seized the Earth Federation assembly in Dakar? The thought hadn't even crossed his mind. All that mattered was the moment, the chance to burn bright and fierce before the inevitable fall. Even if they succeeded, even if they took the assembly halls and held the politicians hostage, It wouldn't change a thing. Somewhere else, in another place and time, a different group would simply convene a new assembly and start the cycle anew. The gears of politics would grind on, an inexorable machine that ground dreams to dust and hope to ashes. Offshore knew this, deep in his bones. And yet, even as despair coiled around his heart, he clung to a desperate sliver of belief. The fragile hope that their actions today might inspire others to rise up, to challenge the status quo, and fight for a better tomorrow. A fool's dream, perhaps, but it was all he had left. The comms crackled to life, shattering his reverie with a burst of urgent chatter. 2 enemy mobile armors closing fast. All hands brace for impact. An attack? Now of all times? Offshore cursed, helpless to do anything but sit and wait as the shuttle shuddered around him. In the cargo bay, the pilot of the other A.E.U.G slammed his fist against the bulkhead, frustration and fear warring in his voice. How long until we hit the atmosphere? 30 minutes. The reply from the cockpit was clipped and tense. We're sitting ducks out here. Open the cargo doors. I'm going out. Watch your time, Franz. We'll deploy 1 unit each from shuttles, 1 and 3 as well. Any more and we risk not being able to recover you before re-entry. Understood. Franz's attention shifted to offshore's A.E.U.G, his next words a direct command. You stay put, rookie. Let us handle this. Offshore swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. He knew the other pilot's name now. Franz. He wouldn't forget it. Yeah, I got it. Good luck out there, Franz. With a ponderous groan, the cargo bay doors ground open, the void yawning wide beyond. Earth loomed above, a sapphire jewel haloed in light, its radiance searing offshore's clouded eyes even through the tinted viewports. Franz's A.E.U.G disengaged from its moorings with a delicate puff of thrusters, gliding clear of the shuttle's bulk. Then, with a burst of azure fire, the mobile suit hurled itself into the abyss, engines howling in defiance of gravity's hold. Mobile suits launching from the shuttles. Shade's warning crackled across the comms, his voice tight with urgency as he wrestled his Z2+ back into formation. I see them, Chung-Young snarled, his fingers flying across the controls, verniers flaring as he brought his machine to bear. In one fluid motion, he aligned the beam's smart gun's reticle with the lead shuttle and squeezed the trigger. A searing lance of azure energy erupted from the barrel, spearing through the void to slam into the shuttle's flank. The beam punched clean through the hull, the A.E.U.G unit caught in the midst of its launch sequence, vanishing in a maelstrom of shrapnel and flame. Listen up, Sigmund. These babies are wave riders. Re-entry won't be a problem. You focus on taking out those shuttles. Hit 'em hard, regroup, then hit 'em again. Once they're dealt with, we make for the surface. And don't be shy about expending ordnance. Understood? Chung-Young was already bringing his Z2+ around, prepared to intercept the A.E.U.G deploying from shuttles 2 and 3, when a familiar voice exploded across the tactical net. Where the hell do you get off giving orders? Last I checked, I was in command here, Chung-Young. I call the shots, not you. Root's G-Corps rocketed into view, flanked by 2 more friendly contacts, the reinforcements arriving at last. Your machines aren't rated for atmospheric combat. Fall back and provide support? Chung-Young snapped, his patience fraying. Like hell we will. Stow it. We've got incoming. Chung-Young's beam smart gun barked again, a brilliant flare of charged particles lancing out towards the approaching A.E.U.G. But the green mobile suits, despite their bulky appearance, juked and dodged with surprising agility, the deadly beams flashing harmlessly past as they split formation and opened fire with their own beam rifles. Damn, these guys can move, Wes yelped, throwing his machine into a gut-wrenching evasive spiral. They've got booster packs, souped up for extra maneuverability. Crypt gritted out, his own beam cannon thundering in reply, even as he jinked and wove through the hail of return fire. Close quarters are going to be a problem. I'm switching to mobile suit mode. Chung Young's voice was a granite slab of calm in the chaos, his Z-2 plus reconfiguring into its humanoid form as he soared above one of the Ziku's Y, poised to strike. Kirchner, we're using the clubs, Franz barked, his Ziku's Way surging away from Shuttle 2 to join his comrade deploying from the third vessel. With a deft twist of the controls, he brought the mobile suit's subarms, a pair of auxiliary manipulators mounted on the suit's backpack, to bear, snatching a bulky launcher from the rear storage container. The club, as it was colloquially known, was a disposable anti-MS rocket system, its silhouette eerily reminiscent of the Panzerfaust infantry anti-tank weapon, employed by the German military during the Second World War centuries ago. All around them, the void seethed with the chaos of battle. Beams and missiles crisscrossed the starscape, the flash and thunder of ordnance and the flare of thrusters painting the darkness in shades of fury and desperation. The Ziku's Way, compared to the Ziku-Ains, were proving to be remarkably stubborn foes. I'm out of missiles, Roots snarled, his G-core twisting away from an incoming club warhead in a stomach-churning spiral of evasive maneuvers. His eyes flicked to the tactical display, searching for the most effective strategy given the current situation. You've got to be kidding me. Roots stared at his tactical display in disbelief, the blinking red text that scrolled across the screen mocking him with its very existence. Combine, it read, the priority indicator flashing with an urgency that bordered on the obscene. No matter how he tried to coax the system and feed it new data and fresh parameters, the result was always the same. Combine or withdraw. And in this battle, with so much at stake, withdrawal was simply not an option. Tex, Shin, check your tactical readouts. I think mine's on the fritz. Crypt was the first to respond, his voice tight with a mix of anger and incredulity. Mine's acting up too. It's got to be some kind of glitch, a malfunction. Wes chimed in a heartbeat later, confusion and doubt warring in his tone. Combining? In the middle of all this? That's crazy. Roots shook his head, a grim chuckle escaping his lips. Looks like we're all seeing the same thing, which means it's not a bug. It's a feature. He keyed his comm, his gaze locking on the Z2, plus harrying Franz's Ziku's Way, the enemy machine a quicksilver blur of evasive maneuvers and pinpoint beam fire. Chung Young, you read me? Little busy here? Roots? What is it? Chung Young's reply was clipped, terse. Listen up. We're going to try something crazy. Buy us some time, okay? Consider it payback for that little stunt on the moon. Laughter crackled across the comm, rich and fierce, even as Chung Young's Z2 Plus scored a solid hit on the ZQ. Still can't just ask for help like a normal person, can you, kid? All right, Roots. You've got your distraction. I'll keep these bastards off your back. But whatever you're planning, make it quick. Thanks. Roots turned his attention back to his own team, the G-Corps, G-Attacker, and G-Bomber falling into formation with the smooth precision of long practice. On the edge of his screens, he could see Shades Z2 Plus closing in on the remaining Ziku's Way, the killing blow imminent. For a moment, he allowed himself a flicker of hope, but, Lieutenant, it's already begun. I can see that side. We're a little late to the party. Cray's reply was clipped, his focus laser-sharp as he watched the tactical displays, the swirling melee of mobile suits and desperate shuttles painting a grim picture of the odds they faced. Forget fine-tuning the targeting systems. We need to draw their fire and buy the shuttles some breathing room. Engage at will. The mobile armor shuddered, its frame groaning as it reconfigured into the yawning maw of its attack mode, the mega cannon swiveling to bear with ponderous grace. A heartbeat later, the weapon roared, a searing lance of light erupting from its depths, to streak towards the blue curve of Earth far below. What the hell? Chung Young's eyes widened as the beam flashed past, so close he swore he could feel the heat of its passage, even through the Z2 Plus armored hide. His gaze tracked back along the line of fire, the monitors resolving the source of the attack into a looming silhouette, a shape that sent a chill down his spine. A mobile armor? Reinforcements? He wrenched the Z2 Plus into a tight turn, verniers flaring as he brought his craft to bear on the new threat. But even as he moved to engage, a flicker of motion caught his eye. Roots and his team were combining. "Looks like we've got company, folks." Root's voice boomed across the tactical net. "Evade those beams and prepare to combine." His hand closed around the combination lever before it slammed home with a satisfying thunk. Guide beams lanced out from the G-Core, the G-Bomber, the G-Attacker, shimmering tethers of light that drew them inexorably together, disparate parts locking into place to form a whole greater than the sum of its components. In the A.E.U.G's cockpit, Cray watched the fusion with a mix of fascination and cold calculation, the targeting reticle settling over the nascent Gundam's heart with predatory intent. The mega cannon roared once more, a second sun blazing to life in the void, the beam scything towards the combined mobile suit, with the promise of annihilation. "Not on my watch, you bastard. I promised them, and I have a debt to settle." Chung Young's scream echoed across the comm, raw and primal, a cry of defiance and desperate sacrifice, as the Z2 Plus threw itself into the path of the oncoming torrent. For a single, stretched moment, the mobile suit hung silhouetted against the searing glare, a frail figure of Gundarium and ceramic, dwarfed by the sheer scale of the energy that engulfed it. And then, in a heartbeat, in an eye blink, Chung Young and his machine vanished, consumed by the ravening beam, sublimated into a cloud of molten shrapnel and ionized gas. For there, rising from the ashes of his demise, stood the Gundam, a towering figure of righteous fury and unbreakable resolve, the blue curve of Earth spread out behind it like a banner.